June 21, it was supposed to be a normal summer night in Orange County, California. 23-year-old Denise Huber had just left a concert with friends. She laughed, waved goodbye, and drove home down the quiet stretch of the Corona Del Mar freeway. She never made it back. Her car was found abandoned on the side of the road, keys still in the ignition purse on the seat, and no sign of a struggle. For days, police searched every canyon, every roadside ditch. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. And Denise Huber became just another missing person until 3 years later, a leak of blood from a stranger's truck in Arizona exposed one of California's most chilling crimes. When detectives opened a freezer inside a storage unit rented by John Joseph Fambularo, they discovered what no one expected: Denise Huber's body perfectly preserved in ice. Fambularo had hidden her there for more than 3 years. To the world, he was just a quiet man living in Laguna Hills. But inside his mind, he had turned murder into obsession, preserving his victim like a trophy frozen in time. The press would later call him the cold storage killer. As the case unfolded, investigators pieced together the terrifying truth of how a single night turned into a nightmare that lasted for years, a story of control, concealment, and absolute evil hiding in plain sight. This is the story of John Joseph Fambularo, the man who turned a freezer into a coffin and a crime into a monument to madness, aka the cold storage killer. The cold classification: murderer, characteristics: kidnapping, rape, kept the body in a freezer for 3 years as a trophy. Number of victims: 1. Date of murder: June 23, 1991. Date of arrest: July 13, 1994. Date of birth: 1950. Victim profile: Denise Huber, 23. Method of murder: bludgeoned to death. Location: Newport Beach, Orange County, California, USA. Status: sentenced to death on September 5, 1997. The killer kept his victim's body refrigerated. 91 experts on sociopathic killers have long opined that some murderers get off on keeping souvenirs from their victims. John Fambularo went to the extreme. He was sentenced to death for the 1991 kidnapping, sexual assault, and bludgeoning death of Newport Beach resident Denise Huber, 23. Fambularo kidnapped Huber after her car broke down on the Corona Del Mar 73 freeway, then sexually assaulted and murdered her at a Laguna Hills warehouse. He was arrested in Arizona in 1994 after sheriff's deputies discovered Huber's body in a freezer outside his home, 3 years after she was murdered. Deputy District Attorney Christopher Evans argued that Fambularo kept Huber's body as a trophy to remind him of the crime. He remains on death row. John Joseph Fambularo. On June 3, 1991, 23-year-old Denise Huber pulls over on the side of the Corona Del Mar freeway in Orange County, California. To mend a flat tire, she disappears without a trace. Lieutenant Ron Smith, with the help of the Costa Mesa Police Department, along with family and friends, searched desperately for the young Californian native, as this disappearance is in stark contrast with her character. Yet, like so many missing persons cases, all leads run dry, and the investigation into Denise Huber's disappearance goes cold. In 1994, a local paint shop owner, Elaine Court, makes an arrangement to purchase paint from Prescott, Arizona, local John Fambularo. Upon this visit, Court notices a Ryder truck in the driveway. Finding the truck to be mysterious, she contacts local police and asks them to investigate. What begins as a routine follow-up quickly turns into a case of homicide. Police converge on the Fambularo home only to find that located in the back of the truck is a freezer. Its contents: a body, later identified as 23-year-old Denise Huber. Inside the house, detectives find more evidence the home had been visited by murder. A box marked Xmas decorations contains a bloody hammer and nail puller. Guns and handcuffs are strewn about the home. Inside a closet, detectives discover an LA Sheriff's Patrol shirt, all signs that Fambularo abducted Denise by gaining her trust posing as a cop. Detectives embark on a forensic mission to retrace the footsteps of a cold case killer. The first step in this journey is to determine the manner in which Denise Huber died. Averaging 85-degree temperatures, Maricopa County rarely deals with frozen bodies. They resort to an old-fashioned technique. A hairdryer is used to successfully thaw the frozen corpse, taking special care not to destroy the fingerprints. Death affirmed for killer who kept body in freezer July 8, 2011. The California Supreme Court has affirmed the death penalty given to a Laguna Hills man who was convicted of kidnapping, sexually assaulting, and murdering a 23-year-old Newport Beach woman in 1991 and then keeping her handcuffed body in a freezer for 3 years as a trophy. In a unanimous decision published on Thursday, the Supreme Court found that John Fambularo, now 60, received a fair trial in Orange County in 1997 for the murder of Denise Huber, who was abducted when her car broke down on the Corona del Mar 73 freeway late at night on June 23, 1991. Orange County Deputy District Attorney Christopher Evans argued during Famularo's headline-making trial in 1997 that Fambularo took Huber to a warehouse in Laguna Hills where he sexually assaulted her and bludgeoned her to death. Fambularo then stored the nude, battered, and handcuffed body in a freezer he bought a few days after the slaying and kept it for 3 years while Huber's parents and friends frantically searched for her. His scheme was uncovered in July 1994 when sheriff's deputies in Yavapai County, Ariz, investigated a report of a stolen rental truck and came across the freezer in the back of the truck, powered by an extension cord from the small house where Fambularo was living. Deputies cut through a padlock on the freezer and 3 layers of plastic trash bags before they found a naked human body frozen solid in a fetal position with the hands secured behind the back with metal handcuffs. It was Denise Huber. Fambularo's arrest and subsequent trial drew intense media attention as he was extradited from Arizona and tried in Orange County. His trial was covered by newspapers, radio station, and television stations. It became a true crime book, Cold Storage, written by Garden Grove author Dan Lasseter, and it was listed by the Orange County Register in 2009 as one of the most notorious cases in county history. Fambularo's appellate court attorneys claimed that he was denied a fair trial in part because of that media attention. They argued that his trial should have been moved out of Orange County because of prejudicial pretrial publicity that allegedly contaminated the jury pool. But the Supreme Court, in a 56-page decision authored by Justice Joyce Kennard, disagreed. They found that Orange County Superior Court Judge John J. Ryan properly conducted the jury selection process properly and qualified a jury that was fair and unbiased. True, the jury selection process indicated that defendant's case was well known in Orange County and that there was considerable community sentiment that he was guilty of murdering Denise and should be executed for that crime. Kennard wrote, "Here, our independent review shows that the selection process resulted in a panel of jurors untainted by the publicity surrounding this case, and we see no evidence that any of them held biases that the selection process failed to detect. The decision to affirm Fambularo's death sentence does not mean that his potential execution is imminent in California, where there is an informal moratorium on capital punishment while lawyers battle the legality of lethal injection and as a means of execution. His defense team will also now take their appeals to the Supreme Court, a process that could take years to resolve. In the meanwhile, Fambularo will remain on death row at San Quentin Prison, one of 58 killers from Orange County sentenced to death. Fambularo gets death sentence in Huber murder. Judge cites terror of victim and her parents' lasting grief in ordering ultimate penalty for man who kept body in freezer September 6, 1997. Santa Ana. John Joseph Fambularo, one of Orange County's most notorious murderers, was sentenced to death Friday by a Superior Court judge who spoke of the terror that his victim, Denise Huber, must have felt during the final moments of her life. Just imagine what was going through her mind, Judge John J. Ryan said, as he described how the 23-year-old woman was abducted from the shoulder of the Corona del Mar freeway where her car had broken down late at night, then taken to a Laguna Hills warehouse where she was sexually assaulted and bludgeoned to death. Fambularo, 40, will be transferred from Orange County Jail to San Quentin State Prison within 10 days. He showed no emotion as the judge imposed the sentence and did not look at Huber's family members when they spoke in court. "I cannot adequately describe the pain, agony, and feelings of helplessness and hopelessness that I experienced," the victim's mother, Ione Huber, told the judge. "It turned into days, then turned into months, then turned into years. I miss her more than words can describe. My heart aches," she added. The judge noted the extraordinary impact the crime had on the young woman's parents, who spearheaded a nationwide search for their daughter after she disappeared on her way home from a rock concert on June 3, 1991. The rear tire of her car blew out on the freeway less than 3 miles from her parents' Newport Beach home. Huber was missing for 3 years before her nude, handcuffed, and bludgeoned body was discovered in July 1994, preserved in a home freezer that Fambularo kept running in an overdue rental truck parked outside his Arizona home. "Without argument, the parents made an extraordinary effort to locate their daughter," Ryan said. Both parents had difficulty with their work, eating, and sleeping, but they always had hope, and they went through years of not knowing. These were years of not knowing and hope. Ione Huber came to court with her 27-year-old son, Jeff. Dennis Huber, the victim's father, who attended each day of Famularo's 6-week trial with his wife, was unable to make the trip from their home in North Dakota, where the couple moved 3 years ago, to try to escape painful reminders of their daughter's disappearance. On Friday, Ione Huber said she and her husband are planning to move back to Orange County soon. They want to live near their son and grandchild as well as many friends. Jeff Huber told the judge that he has seen his parents age 20 years since his sister's disappearance and murder. It's really taken a toll on them, he said. In June, a jury of 9 women and 3 men recommended that Fambularo be sentenced to death. They had already convicted the former painting contractor of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sodomy. 2 jurors and 1 alternate juror were in the courtroom for the formal sentencing. I felt like I wanted to maintain some kind of contact, and I wanted to see the judge agree with our verdict, said juror David Reno. I didn't realize how much this all affected me until the case was over. Every time I drive on the Corona Del Mar freeway, I think about what happened to her that night and about what she went through. Ryan denied a motion by Famularo's attorneys seeking a new trial. The judge said he believed the jury was correct in convicting him of first-degree murder, as well as the so-called special circumstances of sodomy and kidnapping, which made him eligible for the death penalty. The evidence as to Mr. Famularo's guilt was just overwhelming, Ryan said. The judge discussed the special circumstance allegations in detail. He said Fambularo must have had forcible sex in mind when he took Huber to the Laguna Hills warehouse where he was living at the time of the murder. It was inside the warehouse that Huber, a recent graduate of UC Irvine, was killed by at least 31 blows to the head with a roofer's nail puller. The judge said the victim must have fought Fambularo or he would not have felt the need to restrain her. The evidence proved that this lady did not willingly get into a stranger's car when she was so close to help, he said. Even if she had gotten into the car voluntarily, she would not have accompanied Mr. Fambularo to the warehouse. Would not. She gave Mr. Fambularo a hard time, and that is what the evidence proves. Fambularo was quickly convicted last May of the crimes, despite fervent attempts by his attorneys to disprove the special circumstance allegations while ultimately conceding that he did commit the killing. The penalty phase of the trial focused on the aggravating factors of Huber's death and her family's grief versus the mitigating factors of Fambularo's troubled childhood at the hands of a domineering mother and his resulting mental and emotional problems. Ryan said he did believe that Fambularo suffered during his upbringing, which he said left some mental and emotional scars. Mrs. Fambularo's control over her children was not normal or healthy, the judge said. The trial's penalty phase focused almost as much on the bizarre behavior of 71-year-old Ann Fambularo as the defendant himself. Both of his siblings testified about their life as children, and the judge said Friday neither brother, Fambularo, and his older brother Warren, a convicted child molester, was able to channel their sexual drives within what the law required. But the judge also noted the close relationship Fambularo had with his maternal grandmother and older sister and her children and others. The Huber murder case. Arrest came after tip based on intuition investigation. A woman felt something about the truck in Fambularo's driveway seemed strange. A call to a detective proved her right. July 20, 1994. Phoenix. It wasn't anything she could quite put her finger on, but Elaine Canelia just felt there was something about the truck parked in John Joseph Fambularo's driveway. Fambularo, whom she had known for 2 months, already had a van and a pickup truck, she said in an interview Tuesday, so why would he need another large vehicle? He obviously wasn't driving the Yellow Rider rental truck, not with all the boxes of paint cans stacked around it. Canelia, who had visited Fambularo's home July 9th to buy some painting supplies on a whim, scribbled down the license number on a scrap of paper and several days later passed it on to a detective friend in Phoenix. That moment of intuition would end a 3-year-old mystery and lead to the discovery of Denise Huber's preserved body hidden in a deep freezer inside the rental truck. The Newport Beach woman had been missing since June 3, 1991, when she failed to return from a rock concert in Los Angeles County. The riddle of Huber's disappearance was almost solved a month before, however. Ryder officials missed their own opportunity to unravel the case in June when they failed to follow up on a lead supplied by a San Clemente woman who had traced Fambularo to his Dewey address. Carolyn Copeland, who makes her living finding missing heirs, had gone to the San Clemente Ryder franchise with her daughter who was returning a rental. She struck up a conversation with the clerk about her occupation. The clerk told her he had someone he wanted to find, then asked her if she could track Fambularo, who had failed to return a truck rented in January. Using computer databases common to her trade, she located Fambularo. His name was very unusual, so it wasn't hard to find, Copeland said. She gave the information to the San Clemente franchise, who passed it on to Ryder officials at the moving company headquarters in Miami. For whatever reason, they didn't follow up, she said. Ryder officials in neither San Clemente nor Miami would comment on the case. It would be several more weeks before Cornelia would see the truck and become curious. I assumed when I wrote the license number down that the truck was stolen, said Cornelia, 44, a Phoenix paint manufacturer and distributor. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that poor girl would be found in there. Cornelia and her business partner, Jack Court, had done business with Fambularo since May, always meeting him at the Prescott Valley swap meet. On July 9th, Cornelia said Fambularo asked her and Court to come to his house to look at some colorant he wanted to sell. Once there, the trio loaded several boxes of it into Cornelia's car. Cornelia had the impression that Fambularo was in a hurry that night, stacking and loading the boxes so quickly, she said. He wouldn't even allow Court's 10-year-old grandson to use the bathroom, saying there was no running water in the house. But they all had a long day at the swap meet, and Cornelia assumed Fambularo was tired. But the sight of the moving truck kept nagging at her. It just seemed so out of place, she said. On July 12th, when a detective friend came to her warehouse to buy some paint, Cornelia gave him the license number, suggesting it was worth checking. Making a call from her office, he learned the truck had been stolen in California. The next day, the detective returned to Cornelia's warehouse, and while there received a phone call from his colleagues who had found the house. From where I was, I heard him say homicide, body, freezer, recalled Cornelia. I was horrified. It makes me sick to think I was standing right next to this truck that held this body. Cornelia called Huber's parents early this week to express her sympathy. They told Cornelia it was God's will that she helped find their lost child, said Ione Huber, Denise's mother. According to Ione Huber, Cornelia told the grieving couple that she had this really weird feeling while she was at the house, and while there was nothing overtly suspicious about the truck, there was this real strong pull coming from it. She told us she didn't know the reason, Huber said, but Huber knew where the pull came from. We've been praying really hard, she said. Time staff writers Matt Late and Jeff Brazil contributed to this story. In the courtroom, the silence was heavy as the verdict was read, guilty on all counts. After years of denial, after appeals and hearings, John Joseph Fambularo, the man who kept a young woman's body hidden in a freezer for 3 years, was sentenced to death. He showed no emotion, no regret, no flicker of humanity. For Denise Huber's family, justice came late, but it came. Her parents, Dennis and Inez, sat through every hearing, listening to every gruesome detail, determined to see their daughter's name honored with truth. Outside the courthouse, her father said softly, "We waited 3 years, praying she was alive. Instead, we found her in a freezer." Today, Fambularo sits on death row at San Quentin prison, isolated in a concrete cell. He spends 23 hours a day alone, the same kind of isolation he once forced upon his victim. Psychologists who studied him describe a man without empathy, someone who viewed people not as lives but as objects. To him, Denise was a possession to control even in death. The story of Denise Huber reminds us that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind a calm face, a quiet voice, and a locked door. Her name is now spoken in classrooms and crime labs, a reminder to every investigator, every parent, and every woman who's ever walked alone at night: trust your instincts. Evil can hide anywhere. This is the story of John Joseph Fambularo, the man who froze time, and the woman whose memory refuses to be forgotten.